welcome to Darvanalee Design Studio. My name's Nicole Reed and today I'm going to show you how to turn some cardstock from scrapbooking and printer paper into these gorgeous little notepad and dream journal. So let's get started. Okay, so as I said, we're going to make, first of all, we're going to make this A4 size dream journal. It's just got blank pages inside, as you can see, and they're really easy to make. They're a great way to use up your leftover cardstock and everything from scrapbooking. And also, I use blunt needles from my sewing machine. So when I do a needle change from my sewing machine, on my heavier needles that is, so a universal 90 and upwards, or a leather 90 and upwards, and denim 90 and upwards, I tend to make some of these. And I have these just as I'm going. I might see some nice cardstock from a craft store or something like that, and I'll grab a couple of sheets of that, and then that way I can turn them into these cute books. And I often give these as gifts to friends that are having birthdays. My girls also give them to their friends because they've just got the blank pages, so some of their artist friends can draw in them, others write in them. My daughters love them. They just love writing in them and writing their own little stories and keeping them as little diaries. And then with the leftover piece, we make a little tiny, well, it's not tiny, it's about 3.5 by 6. And basically what we do is we turn that into a gorgeous little notepad for in our handbag. And that way, if we need to write down a phone number or anything like that, we've always got a notepad on hand. So we're going to do some measurements and some cutting, and then we're going to turn these into a gorgeous little project for you. Okay, so you're going to need a few things today. You're going to need a ruler. You're also going to need a rotary cutter, a pencil, a paper creaser, some wonder clips, a couple of sheets of cardstock that you're going to use for your dream journal and notepad, and you're also going to need about 20 sheets, between 15 and 20 sheets of printer paper. So we're going to make a few cuts and get ready to sew our little project together. So we'll just set everything aside for now, and then we'll start cutting our cardstock. So we'll start with this piece first. Now I always just grab my paper. This is a nice quicker way of measuring it out. So I just grab my cardstock, which is here, and then I just lay my printer paper on top of that, making sure that it's all even, and then I just get the pencil and I just run it straight down the side of that paper. And I know that this is the piece that I've got to cut off. And that, if you want measurements, that measures approximately 8.5 inches by 12 inches. So I just get my ruler and I put it on that line, my rotary cutter, and I just trim that piece off. And then I'll just set that aside for a moment. And then from this leftover piece that I've just cut off, I cut a 2-inch strip. And that's going to make our spine. And then this last little bit, I just set that aside because we'll use that for when we make our notepad. Alrighty, so we've got that piece there. And there's just one little piece of bit that we've got to cut off because our printer paper actually measures 11 3/4. So I'm going to line that up at the bottom of the paper. Just making sure that it's straight. Let's draw a line, and I do the same for the spine as well. So I'll just lay that on top, measuring 11 3/4. Just drawing a line, and I leave them on top of each other. And then basically what I do is I just trim. I put my ruler up against that line that I just marked, and I just trim those 2 little bits off and get rid of the rubbish. Now I'll set those 2 aside, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing with the cover. So again, I just make it nice and easy for myself. Just grab the printer paper, sit it on top, making sure that it's nice and even. You can see there that it's nice and even, and then just holding it in place and quickly running the pencil down. Grab the ruler, pop that onto the line, trim that excess off, and this will become our little notepad. So just set that aside and I'll show you how to cut that a little bit later. And again, we're going to turn it and line up our ruler on the 11 3/4, draw a line, and then we just trim that excess off. Alrighty, so now what we do, we can set our ruler aside. We grab our 3 components. So you can see here, this is our back, and that's going to be the inside. Okay, then we grab our printer paper, making sure that that is nice and even sitting on there, and then we pop our cover on. And then with our spine, what we're going to do, I'm using this side of the spine, but you know, you can, if you like the other side better, you can use that, but this is going to match the backing of the back of my notepad and sorry, my dream journal. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fold that in half and slowly work my way down so it's nice and even. And then I'm just lightly creasing it at this point, and then I will grab my paper creaser and I will just gently run that along. Alright, so that's nice and crisp and ready to go. We can now just grab our paper and our covers and we just tap them in, making sure everything is even. Then we grab a couple of wonder clips, one in the middle. So you can see here it's not quite even and it's a little bit up here, so what I'll do is take that back off and just make sure that it's nice, that it's pushed into that crease and that it's even. Alright, so I can see that that's nice and even now. Wonder clip there, and a wonder clip there, and then a wonder clip in the center, and then we're ready to start sewing. So I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and we'll sew this together. Okay, so here we are at the sewing machine, and what we're going to do now is we're going to stitch, upping our stitches to a 3, and we're going to stitch about 1/8 of an inch away from this raw edge here. So you can see there, that's the edge, and about 1/8 of an inch, and I have a presser foot here that makes it very easy for me to gauge either way which way 1/8 of an inch is. So I'm going to do that, and we're going to do 2 rows. So basically we're going to do one close to this raw edge, and then we're going to do one closer to the folded line. And you want to start off a little bit slow. So I generally, what I do is I hold my threads and get my needle down in the down position into the paper already. And basically my wonder clips are actually going to hold everything in place, and I can just move them out a bit and I won't actually have to remove them as I go, so they'll hold everything perfectly in place. And I've just looked and everything seems to be lining up beautifully. And you want your spine to be hard up against the edge of the cover underneath it. So we'll just start off nice and slow, and I just do a 1 stitch back, maybe 2 for a reverse, and that's just going to hold it a little bit more securely. And we just go nice and slow. And as I'm using a blunt needle, you can use a sharp needle, but I'm just using a blunt needle. I was just changing it out. So and it's a 90-14, and it will click and carry on a little bit as you're going through, so just go nice and slow. Now just remember, this is actually going through 20 sheets of paper plus the cover, the spine and the back. So just nice and slow, don't rush it. It won't wreck your machine. I'm just pushing mine, giving it a little bit of a help through, but I'm just taking it 1 stitch at a time. Just move that wonder clip out of the way now, and I did that about 1/8 of an inch all the way along. And I've gone off, and now I'm just going to reverse it back by 2 or 3 stitches and then come forward. Now I can remove the wonder clips. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to stitch closer to the crease here, and we're going to do that at about 1/4 of an inch. The 1/8 of an inch was just that little bit too narrow, so I've just upped it to the 1/4 of an inch, and I do vary that from time to time. It just depends on the project and where the paper is sitting and how the machine's handling it. So now I'm going to do a 1/4 of an inch up the spine. Just nice and slow. As I said, it is making a little bit of a racket, but I'm just going nice and slow. And that's only because the needle is blunt and I was just changing it. And when I change out a needle, I like to do projects like this and just basically get every last bit out of my needles before I throw them away. And then just reverse it, and that's it, we're done. So as you can see, it's now all stitched together. You can see that it's nice, and a 1/4 of an inch all the way and an 1/8 of an inch there. You could even go a 1/4 of an inch, and as you can see on the back as well, it is all stitched and in place. Okay, so we've got our 2 pieces and we've cut our little extra piece, so that was 3.5 by 1.5. And then we're going to grab our printer paper and we're going to cut 3.5 by 6 inches. And again, you're probably going to use about 15 to 20 sheets of paper. There we go. Okay, so we just get a top sheet and a back one, and then we just get our little spine and pop it over, and just like we did with the A4 book, we're just going to stitch 1/4 of an inch from the spine and about an 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, and then we've got ourselves a nice little notepad for in our wallet. Alrighty, so I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and get that done. Okay, so here we are back at the sewing machine again. You've got to just pop your wonder clips on there. That does help hold everything together. So just whack a wonder clip on there, maybe one in the center. Okay, and then we're just going to stitch a 1/4 of an inch from the spine. And then just turn that around and come back. Again, nice and slow. Grab our snips. Scraggly little bits of thread. And there you have it. You have a nice little notepad for in your wallet. So that's our little tutorial for today, and as you can see, they're a gorgeous little book to use for whatever purpose, whether it be a dream journal or a visual journal or just even a writing book. Basically, you can make them anytime you want. All you need is some scrapbooking paper and a sewing machine and a couple of sharp needles or blunt ones, whichever one you've got, and there you go. And out of a couple of sheets of paper, we've managed to get these 2 books. Okay, so thank you very much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this quick little paper tutorial that we had today. As I said, they're a great gift for anybody. You might be able to do some up for your mum, because let's face it, we can always do with a little notepad or a little book to write in. So if you like this video, give us a thumbs up down below. As always, we love to hear from you, so please leave a comment, hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and that way you won't miss out on any future posts. And for those that don't know, my name's Nicole Reed from Darvanalee Design Studio. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you again next time. Bye for now.